Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with episode 87 of our Reddit series. This one's going to be some more entitled parents, and I know you're going to love this one. This one is two pretty long stories, and I know you guys like me reading out the longer ones because you don't necessarily have time, so don't forget to quickly leave a like on the video to show me you like them. Now sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some entitled parents. So a little backstory, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer last year and had a full thyroidectomy. Basically, I had my entire thyroid taken out. One of the complications is a calcium deficiency, aka hypocalcemia, which I ended up having. Basically, I have to take calcium pills every day, and sometimes, if my levels get too low, I have to go to the hospital to get calcium through an IV. After my surgery, I had to stay an extra 4 days, get transferred to ICU, and hooked up to a heart monitor, so that should tell you just how bad it can get. I was getting off work and not feeling my best. The biggest symptom I took out from this is intense tingling in my hands, feet, and face. Sometimes I feel it very little and pay it no mind because it usually goes away, but this tingling was intense. This time, I knew that I was in trouble. So I made my way to the ER after the doctor advised me to. By the time I got there, I was very disoriented and dizzy. I stumbled into the ER and was told to wait as someone was already checking in. There at the check-in was the entitled mother and her little boy. They finished and went and sat down. And as they passed me, the boy smiled at me and I smiled back. The mum was more focused on going to sit down. No big deal. So I checked in, got my hospital bracelet, and sat down to wait. The waiting room only had about 7 people in it, including myself, so I knew that I wouldn't be waiting for too long. I got called into triage after the entitled mum and her son. I told them what was wrong with me while they took their vitals. Then I was sent back to the waiting room to wait for a bed. I guess that was the deciding point on who was in next because I was called in about 10 minutes later. The sweet male nurse even put his arm around me when he noticed how wobbly I was. He did offer me a wheelchair, but I declined. He started to lead me away when I heard a loud, "What the hell?" I looked over and I see the entitled mum marching over to us. She stormed over to us, demanding to know why I was going in first when her son was very, very sick. She pointed to her son, who, along with the rest of us in the waiting room, was watching a helicopter land outside. I found out later that they were transferring a patient to UCLA Medical if you were curious. He was in complete awe and yelling about how cool it was. Yeah, he was totally worse than me. The nurse shook his head and started to lead me off. The entitled mum blocked his way and insisted that I go and sit back down so her poor baby could get treated while continuing to rant that I looked fine and I was obviously faking it. The receptionist stood up and firmly told her to sit down. The entitled mum protested but ended up going and sitting back down. Now the ER had a few private rooms and right outside in the halls are more beds. You will know why this is important in a little bit. I was led into a private room and a few minutes later, I was in a hospital gown getting my blood drawn to check my calcium levels. As I waited for my results, I relaxed in my bed and just watched Netflix on my phone. I heard the nurse directing someone to the bed in the hall room right outside my room. And guess who it was? I was watching a funny movie, so I was giggling a lot. The entitled mum, however, took that as proof that I was faking my illness. She started calling me a liar and how disgusted she was that I would stoop so low to get attention. She was being very sneaky about taunting me only when there was no staff around. She wasn't worth a second of my time, so I ignored her and continued to watch Netflix. From reading all of these stories, I'm surprised she didn't yank my phone away, declaring her son needed it more than me. But anyway, I continued to watch the movies while I waited for the doctor. The whole time, the entitled mum just glared at me like I was a demon. The doctor came in, very concerned, and told me that she was admitting me right away and a nurse would be by in a bit to take me to my room. My calcium was 7.8 and it should have been between 9 and 10. As they wheeled me out, I saw the entitled mum being given discharge papers as her son just had a nasty cough from a cold. I gave her the best smug look I could and said, "Still think I'm faking it, you hag?" I waved and was wheeled away from her too fast for her to respond. My mum came as I got settled upstairs and I told her everything about the entitled mum, including what I said to her. We had a huge laugh about it and I ended up staying in the hospital for 3 days. Her son was no problem at all considering he was completely oblivious to all of it. I hope he grows up to be a good person, unlike his mum. To end this on a good note, I just passed 7 months cancer free, so yay. First of all, and I don't usually go personally into these, but if you do happen to be watching this video, just want to say congratulations on being cancer free. It is awesome and I honestly can't imagine how amazing that must feel. But putting that aside for just a second, these entitled parents just don't learn. For whatever reason, they seem to think that their kids are entitled to go in before anybody else, and honestly, they just have absolutely no basis for that whatsoever. They never know what's wrong with the other person, and they continue to think that they're more important. Entitled parents at their finest. My old Kindle had just died, so I was borrowing my wife's tablet to get my reading fix. I was just chilling out in the cafeteria with a coffee after working a short notice call-in for 4 hours. Because I was shopping when I got the call, I wasn't in uniform. So it was just me in an old t-shirt and jeans trying to grab a minute to myself before my shift proper kicked in. I was pretty into my ebook when I felt a tug on my elbow. I turned around to find a little Indian or Southeast Asian, not Native American kid looking at the tablet. He was maybe 5 or 6 years old and asks if I have any games on my iPad. It's not an iPad, it's an old Samsung thing. I tell him no, this is a boring old person tablet and it only has books. While we are having our little conversation, I'm looking around for any evidence of parents, as hospitals are big places and kids get lost a lot. He seems disappointed in the game situation and wanders off, and I think nothing of it. A bit later, the 5-minute warning goes off on my phone to let me know I need to get back upstairs to the lab. I dash off to the coffee machine for one last refill and foolishly leave the tablet sitting on my jacket on the table. When I come back, the tablet is gone. I do that thing everyone does where I pat all my pockets and look on the floor, but the damn thing is really gone. I grab my jacket up and head to the counter to see if they saw anything, but on the way, I see the kid from earlier leaving with his mother and he's got my tablet. I know it's my wife's because the cover is very distinct with cartoon characters on it, so I know that it's hers. I catch up with them and politely ask if I can have the tablet back. The mother kind of smiles at me, but we do have a bit of a language barrier. I do the world's worst performance of art miming that the tablet is mine, and she talks to the kid who is starting to whine and clutches the tablet to his chest. At this point, I'm thinking this is going to be fine, the mother knows what's up, and I'm going to get my stuff, and all is going to be well. And then enter the entitled dad. I didn't see him coming. He must have still been at the counter or in one of the booths. The kid had gone from whining to angry crying pretty quick, and suddenly, 5'4" of entitled dad is there jabbing a finger at me and yelling in broken English, "What are you doing?" I tell the guy that this kid has my tablet in between his outbursts, and I just want it back. He doesn't even look at the kid, he's just yelling, "My son is not a thief, you leave. My son is not a thief, you leave." I tell him that I'm happy to leave, just give me back my property and I'm gone. I don't raise my voice and my hands are at my sides and I'm trying to keep things nice, but this guy is getting revved up. He keeps repeating the line about not being a thief and sprinkling in that I'm racist every once in a while. Somebody must have called security because a security guard walks into the cafeteria and makes a beeline for us. Now, it's worth mentioning that the guard and the entitled dad are the same race. Entitled dad starts speaking rapid fire Hindi to the guard and stops every once in a while, and entitled mum nods along with whatever he's saying. I can't understand a damn thing, so I just stand there waiting for my turn to speak. I mean, security is here, so how much longer can this go on? So you can imagine my shock when the security guard asks me to step aside, not so we can talk, no, so that entitled dad and his family can leave. Apparently I was harassing the mother and child, and the entitled dad had stepped in, and now I was refusing to let them leave. I tell the security guard as patiently as I can that I was not harassing anybody. I just wanted my tablet back so that I can get back to work. The security guard looks at the kid holding the cartoon character covered tablet and starts talking to the entitled mum and dad again in Hindi. Then he tells me to move aside again so they can leave, or else he will be forced to contact the police and restrain me. I'm not sure if it was the security guard's stupidity or entitled dad's smug face, but something did snap in my brain and I went a bit Karen on the guy. I tell the security guy that I'm happy to comply, but I'm calling his boss and he is going to be liable for my property being stolen. The entitled family shuffled out the exit and I start to dial. The security guy was probably thinking he was about to put me in my place, because when you dial security, they patch you through to the officer closest to the location, which was him. He already had his phone out ready to give me the "I am the manager" talk, and I bypassed the switchboard completely and phoned his boss directly. Working after hours has its perks. The security supervisor is a guy I'm going to call Dave. Dave is an ex-cop and runs a tight ship, and Dave does not tolerate stupidity lightly. I say hi to Dave and get to see the security guy's eyes boggle a little bit. I ask Dave if he's aware that his officers are allowing thieves to leave the hospital while the people they've robbed are detained in the cafeteria. I give him a full rundown of the last 10 minutes with the guard's name sprinkled in there fairly liberally, along with a description of the entire family. The security guy is losing colour from his face and Dave doesn't waste any time. He has the details confirmed by the guy in the camera rooms and radios the other guards to stop them at the exit. I hang up with Dave, look at the security guy and ask him if he feels like getting my goddamn tablet back now, and he's off like a shot. I call my manager and let them know the crap that I'm dealing with. He laughs and tells me to take my time, but keep him updated. Security wind up returning the family to the cafeteria about 5 minutes later, minus my tablet. I ask what happened to it, and the newly arrived security guy tells me that when he confronted Entitled Dad, he took the tablet from Entitled Kid and threw it on the ground. Dave has the contents in a plastic bag. The thing is mangled, screen smashed, case is warped, just a total write-off. Dave has wisely chosen to call the police at that point, and Entitled Dad had been fairly uncooperative until the word police was spoken. He was still saying that there was no proof that the iPod was mine. The guard had brought him back to point out the dozen or so cameras in the cafeteria. He was looking decidedly less smug by the time the cops got there. They looked at the remains of the tablet, looked at the footage, and issued Entitled Dad with a fine and a charge for theft and destruction of property. What could have been a quick, teachable moment for the kid turned into almost 3 hours of talking to the cops and getting my case number before I could finally go back to work. Dave filled out an incident report for me, so I still got paid. Dave, you are the MVP. A couple of days later, I got a call from a lawyer who worked for the family that Entitled Dad was visiting. He arranged for my iPad, seriously, why does everyone think it's an iPad, to be replaced by sending me a check. It was enough for my wifey to buy a top of the line replacement and all the peripheral stuff she wanted, so she was happy. I was asked if I would consider writing a letter about the charges against Entitled Dad being a cultural misunderstanding because it could affect future visa applications. I politely declined as I think being an asshole transcends culture, so he can live with his actions. Hell, he might even learn something from the experience. The idiot guard wrote a very sincere apology letter and delivered it in person. We shook hands and I consider it resolved. Dave put him on probation and I figure that this is a learning experience for him and maybe next time he'll hear both sides of the story and then check the cameras. I got myself another Kindle and I'm hoping the fact that it does just books and doesn't look like an iPad will keep the entitled kids and entitled dads away. You know, I think this is probably the longest story I've ever read out on an Entitled Parents episode. This was the best part of 7 minutes and honestly, every single second was worth it. I just love seeing some justice done to these entitled parents and this one was absolutely perfect. I wasn't sure at the start of this what this person's occupation was. I was kind of hoping they were going to be a cop, but at the end of the day, it still worked out just as I was hoping it would. If nothing else, I reckon the video deserves a like just for this post. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm just going to take a second to plug a couple of my social medias including our Discord server. I do have a Twitter and an Instagram if you want to follow me on both of those. They are both at Bumfris and feel free to send me a message and I'll do my best to respond. I also just want to take a second to say thank you so much for all the love lately, all of the comments, the likes, the subscribers, just the fact that you guys tune in and watch my videos every day, it really does make my day. Every single one of you is the backbone of this channel and I really cannot express how much I appreciate that. Without you guys, this channel would be nothing and I love making these videos for you guys and I love the fact that you enjoy them. So on that note, I will wrap things up for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to take a second again to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and I'll see you all in the next episode of Entitled Parents. Bye.